I think this is something that has been tossed into the middle of the campaign. We would have preferred that not happen, but now that it has happened, Mr. Comey really needs to come forward and explain why he took this unprecedented step.
With regard to disclosure, I'm very glad to hear Hillary Clinton calling for putting all of this out on the table. Why doesn't she ask her senior aide to release all these emails? I mean, why doesn't she go ahead and release all the 33,000 emails that she did not turn over to the FBI and to the Congress initially?
Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman was in damage control today, as we heard just before that last clip, and that was Mike Pence, VP candidate, keeping up the attack for the Trump campaign. The FBI, of course, announcing its investigation into new emails connected to the Democratic candidate. And they're checking to see whether classified information was included in the messages, but they're not saying when they'll have an answer. Let's bring in our United States political panel on the horse race. In Washington are Louisa Savage of Politico and Paul Brandes of West Wing Reports. And let's start with the focus on Trump. Paul, I'll begin with you. Here's what Trump had to say about the statement from the director of the FBI.
Hillary Clinton's corruption is on a scale we have never seen before. We must not let her take her criminal scheme into the Oval Office. I have great respect for the fact that the FBI and the Department of Justice are now willing to have the courage to right the horrible mistake that they made.
Is this a gift for Donald Trump, Paul?
Well, it certainly is. I mean, with 9 days till Election Day, Carol, it really is just an amazing gift for him. Of course, it's worth remembering that the FBI Director Jim Comey last week was on his rigged list. The FBI and the Justice Department and everybody was conspiring to get him. Now, all of a sudden, these are good guys doing their good job. But the fortunes have turned quite quickly. But it's important to remember, as Trump talks about her criminal background and how she should be in jail, the same FBI over the summer, in fact, declined to indict her on this. And Comey himself acknowledges that he doesn't know what is in these emails. And one thing quickly, people are not talking about this, is the fact that Comey actually sent a second letter on Friday. This was an internal letter to the to employees of the FBI, an internal letter, and he says, the emails, of course, appear to be pertinent to our investigation, but we don't know the significance of these emails. I don't want to create a misleading impression. Boy, he certainly did create a misleading impression. He's given everybody the sense that there's something huge here, and yet he says, well, we don't even know what's in these emails. But that has not stopped Trump and his side from, of course, making this a rush to judgment that there's some kind of a huge smoking gun here. There's no evidence of that at this point.
Louisa, what do you think of the FBI's director's move and Trump's reaction to it?
Well, I think what the FBI director here is doing is trying to protect himself and protect the FBI. And I'm going to back up and explain what this is all about, because I think it's getting lost. The FBI was investigating whether the fact that Hillary Clinton set up a private email server at her home contained any classified information, and whether she broke any laws if there were, in fact, some classified documents that were being mishandled on the server. What they found was amongst huge reams of emails, there were a small number of things that were either classified or retroactively should have been classified at the time. However, the FBI found no criminal wrongdoing. They did not find any intentional mishandling of this classified information, which was the standard that they were applying. So the director of the FBI came out over the summer, and what he did then was really unusual and unprecedented. Instead of just saying, we're not going to indict, he held this whole big press conference trying to explain himself and trying to protect the FBI and explain that they weren't just doing this because Hillary Clinton was powerful. By doing so, he then ended up testifying in front of Congress under oath. He got questioned by members of Congress, and he told them everything that they had at the time. now, in a separate investigation, additional emails belonging presumably to this aide of Clinton's have been found. They haven't been read yet. They don't know what's in those emails. But now he knows that what he said to Congress was incomplete. So he sent this letter to say, we found other things that may be pertinent. He felt that if he didn't do that, and if the fact that they were looking and trying to get a warrant to look at these emails came out in a leak, that it would look as though the FBI was trying to conduct a cover-up right before an election, that they were somehow being political in what they were doing. So you can argue whether it's more political to come out with this letter or whether he should have taken the risk and just done his job and come out publicly if he found something nefarious. But the fact that he set this all up with this big, high-profile press conference in the summer kind of boxed him in now, where everyone's looking to see if the FBI is being influenced politically. Now, the Department of Justice said that this was contrary to their guidelines, which is to stay away from politics and not do anything in the lead up to an election that could influence the election. Clearly, he has violated those guidelines by coming out. There doesn't seem to be any new wrongdoing that they're accusing her of, just the fact they found some more emails that could potentially be pertinent.
This is what Hillary Clinton had to say about it last night.
It is pretty strange. It's pretty strange to put something like that out with such little information right before an election. In fact, it's not just strange, it's unprecedented, and it is deeply troubling because voters deserve to get full and complete facts. And so we've called on Director Comey to explain everything right away, put it all out on the table, right?
Paul, what do you think of Clinton's strategy here, implying, first of all, that the FBI director's actions were not on the up and up, casting suspicions on his motives for doing this? Is it fair and good strategy, or could it backfire?
Well, there's no question. First of all, it's fair to say that if Clinton wins the presidency, which she's still favored to do, I have a hunch she's going to be in the market for a new FBI director, probably in a fairly short order. But I do think that, again, over the summer, let's just come back to what the facts are here. He declined to indict her based on lack of evidence that she intentionally violated the law. Her critics say opposite, but that is his conclusion. Now, the fact that he is doing this 10 days before the election, as Louisa said, it is a violation of what traditionally the FBI has done. His higher-ups at the Department of Justice said this is not what you should be doing, but they did not stop him. So we'll see. It has the possibility, possibly, of influencing the election, but 30% of all the votes in this election have already been cast. About 3 out of 10 votes have already been cast. So we'll see how many people are going to be influenced by this. I have a feeling not as many as the Trump crowd thinks. Most people made up their minds about Trump and Clinton probably a long time ago, and short of any major bombshell like an actual indictment of her, which absolutely would change the race, I'm not quite sure this changes the needle as much as the Trump folks like, but it certainly gives them something good to talk about for the next week.
Well, let's take a look at how the new email investigation is impacting the candidates at the polls. The most recent polling seems to provide a ray of optimism for the Trump campaign. An LA Times USC tracking poll actually has Trump out in front with a 2-point lead. However, those numbers vary from most others. The IBD tip poll pegs Hillary Clinton's support at 45%, Donald Trump's at 41%, and the latest numbers from ABC give Clinton just a 3-point lead in a 2-way race. Paul, I'll begin with you this time. Louisa, I'll come to you. How do you see these numbers?
If you aggregate all of the polls together, Carol, and put them into a mixer and hit puree, out come these numbers. And the fact is that Trump actually peaked on a national basis way back on July 27th at about 45.7%. Way back on July 27th. He is about 2 or 3 points below that now. So his ceiling was reached about 2.5 months ago, and I think it shows that the base of his supporters is probably not big enough, wide enough at least, to put him over the top. They are enthusiastic. They love the guy, but there simply are not enough of him. So again, he peaked, according to the data, about 2.5 months ago. Clinton is not exactly a great candidate herself, though. I mean, she has really yet to crack a 50% on a national basis. So I think as we head into Election Day, a week from now, we're probably looking, I think you alluded to, about depending on the polls, maybe about a 2 to 4 point edge for her. But these elections are won and lost in the swing states. We already know how 42, 43 states are going to vote, but in these 7 or 8 swing states, she is ahead in all of them except for Iowa, which is a big one. Except for Ohio, which is a big one, and Ohio. She's ahead everywhere else except Florida, though, now looks exceptionally tight. She had a 4-point lead in Florida a week ago. The average shows that now down to about half a point, and a poll out this morning, Lindsay just alluded to it a couple of minutes ago, Trump is up 4 in Florida now, according to the New York Times. So we're looking at a very tight race here. But again, she's ahead in most of the swing states that will decide the election.
Okay, Louisa, do you think at the end of the day it's going to be a tight race? And I take it from Hillary Clinton's reaction to this latest email problem that she is worried that it could have an impact.
Sure, it absolutely could have an impact, and I don't think the polls that we're seeing now reflect yet people assimilating this information. I think we have to wait 3 or 4 days to know how it's impacting the race. But that said, the polls have been tightening. This has been a really volatile race, and a few days ago, a lot of polls were showing Hillary Clinton up by 8, 10 points. That certainly didn't seem sustainable. Certainly, this is a very polarized country. Republicans, they might not like everything Donald Trump says, but at the end of the day, they remember that they really don't like Hillary Clinton. So I would expect this race to tighten as Election Day comes close. And as Paul said, the battle is in these swing states where it's very tight. And there are also a lot of down ballot races that will be affected by turnout and by enthusiasm. So this is certainly not going to be some kind of easy walk for Hillary Clinton. I think it will be a tight race, though she has maintained a slight lead throughout, and I would expect her to do so unless some other big bombshell comes out.
And she has maintained a treasure trove of cash, which some say Donald Trump has not. Will he have the cash for the home stretch? He's reaching into his own pocket. Big money donors, though, are reportedly avoiding the Republican candidate. Coming up, our political panel will look at how Trump's cash flow problem could impact his final push to the White House. We'll also talk about what will be the ballot question for Americans going into this election. That's coming up.